Welcome back to the channel where we uncover the hidden gems of numismatics. Today, the 1977 Canadian 1-cent coin is far more than just a fragment of currency. It is a meticulously crafted embodiment of national heritage, political symbolism, and cultural identity, merging British monarchy with Canadian sovereignty and the wider ideals of Republican values often expressed in phrases like liberté, égalité, fraternité. This iconic coin, bearing the denomination 1 cent and minted in the year 1977, offers profound symbolic interpretations when viewed through the lenses of history, numismatics, and even pan-cultural revolutionary ideology. On the obverse, we see the regal effigy of Queen Elizabeth II, modeled by the sculptor Arnold Machin, whose initials KG for Kruger Gray, an earlier designer, appear on the reverse under the maple leaf design. The Queen's title Elizabeth Tedidi Regina, Latin for Elizabeth II. By the grace of God, Queen anchors Canada's constitutional monarchy and underscores the historical ties to the British Crown, even as Canada was asserting greater independence. Through acts like the 1965 adoption of the maple leaf flag and the 1980 repatriation of the Constitution. The reverse of the coin features the classic maple leaf twig, a pair of maple leaves on a single stem, which had been used since 1937 and continues to evoke Canada's natural beauty, strength, and unity. To interpret this coin through the philosophical prism of liberty, equality, fraternity, the triad popularized during the French Revolution and later embraced by many republics, we must recognize its symbolic resonance beyond borders. While Canada is not a republic in the traditional sense, it embraces democratic principles, human rights, and a pluralistic social structure. These values align remarkably well with the revolutionary ideals of liberty, freedom from tyranny, equality, justice under law, and fraternity, communal solidarity. Even with the Queen's portrait symbolizing the monarchy, the coin operates within a constitutional framework that limits royal power and centers governance on democratic institutions. Thus, the coin becomes a fascinating dual symbol, monarchist in representation, yet republican in operation and philosophical alignment. The name Lagraffoul, a French surname linked to artistic engraving, sculpture, and numismatic design, is invoked here not because he directly designed this coin, but as a stand-in for the artistic soul behind state-issued currency. Every element, whether the curve of a leaf vein or the spacing of the Queen's Latin title, tells a story. A Lagraffoul-like approach to interpreting this piece means appreciating it as sculpture in pocket, an everyday object elevated to a national artifact. The 1-cent coin, though of minimal monetary value, holds tremendous symbolic wealth. It represents the labor of citizens, the stability of the national mint, and the visual culture that connects Canadians to their shared past and evolving identity. The year 1977 itself sits at a political crossroads in Canadian history. It was the age of Pierre Elliott Trudeau's progressive liberalism, an era steeped in bilingualism, multiculturalism, and constitutional reform. It was also a year of increasing tension between Quebec's separatist movement and federalist forces, a dynamic that directly invokes the liberté, égalité, fraternité motto born in France. The 1977 cent can be seen as a silent witness to these national conversations, as each coin circulated among citizens from Montreal to Vancouver, passing through the hands of both unity advocates and cultural preservationists. The maple leaf, Canada's enduring emblem, speaks directly to fraternity, representing unity in diversity, and a nation that spreads its branches wide to shelter peoples of many backgrounds. The concept of liberty is embedded in Canada's Charter of Rights and Freedoms, later adopted in 1982 but already gestating in the national discourse in 1977. Equality, too, was increasingly reflected in federal efforts to balance English and French heritage, Indigenous reconciliation, and gender equality, all ideas that were gaining traction at the time. Thus, when we speak of liberty, equality, fraternity in connection with this 1977 Canadian 1-cent coin, we are not imposing foreign ideology onto Canadian identity, but rather highlighting the universal aspirations that transcend national borders. This coin becomes a physical metaphor of coexistence, the British crown and the Canadian maple united. Monarchical symbolism wrapped in democratic function. Traditional form with modern meaning. Though Canada ceased production of the 1-cent coin in 2012 due to rising costs and decreasing use, coins like the 1977 cent remain treasured pieces of cultural memory. They are tokens not merely of economic exchange, but of ideological continuity, holding within their copper alloy traces of revolution, colonization, nation-building, and individual liberty. The alloy itself 98% copper, 0.5% tin, 1.5% zinc forms not just a durable substance, but a material legacy of industrial progress and monetary evolution. Over time, these coins weather and darken, echoing the enduring struggle between old institutions and new freedoms. Each scratch, tarnish, or patina becomes part of a living archive, where history, ideology, and national identity intersect. To hold the 1977 1-cent coin is to grasp a miniature monument, a republic beneath a crown, a leaf beneath a queen, a whisper of liberté, eagle-eyed, fraternity beneath the mince press. It speaks to a Canada that is both ancient and emergent, proud and reflective, sovereign and inclusive. It is not merely a penny, it is a poetic artifact from a time when the values we still defend today were quietly pressed into copper and passed from hand to hand in the everyday economy of meaning. The next up top to the 1981 Canadian 1-cent coin, commonly referred to as a penny, carries immense historical and symbolic significance beyond its modest face value. At first glance, it bears the denomination 1 cent and the name Canada beneath, a striking maple leaf design, an enduring emblem of Canadian national identity. This specific design, introduced in 1937 by artist George Edward Kruger Gray, initials KG, presents to conjoin maple leaves on a twig. The maple leaf, deeply rooted in Canadian culture, symbolizes unity, resilience, and peace. For centuries, it has been used as a visual representation of Canada's natural wealth, particularly its vast forests, and later as a powerful national symbol adopted officially in the Canadian flag in 1965. Above the denomination is the year 1981, situating this coin within a key era of Canadian history during the reign of Queen Elizabeth II, whose portrait graces the obverse of the coin. Her title appears in Latin, Elizabeth to Dei Regina, short for Dei Gratia Regina, meaning by the grace of God, Queen. This Latin phrase connects Canada's monarchy to its historical British colonial heritage, while also preserving ceremonial and religious traditions rooted in centuries-old constitutional monarchy, though the words liberty, eagle-eyed, fraternity do not appear on Canadian coins. Their philosophical influence can be inferred through broader Enlightenment ideals. Originally the national motto of France during and after the French Revolution, Liberté, eagle-eyed, fraternity translates to liberty, equality, fraternity. These ideals, while French in origin, resonate deeply with Canada's democratic values and bilingual, multicultural identity. Canada has long prided itself on its commitment to freedom, human rights, and social cohesion principles aligned with this famous motto. The eagle-eyed aspect is evident in Canada's efforts toward reconciliation with Indigenous peoples and a commitment to equity in law, while fraternity reflects the Canadian ideal of multicultural harmony and the country's embrace of diversity through immigration and shared civic responsibility. The reverse side of the coin, designed by Kruger Gray, is more than a simple botanical sketch. The twin maple leaves are symbolic of Canada's two founding European cultures, English and French, and, by extension, all the peoples who make up the Canadian Federation. Their stylized, symmetrical arrangement suggests balance and cooperation. Kruger Gray's initials, KG, appear modestly beneath the leaves, marking his influence across multiple Commonwealth currencies. His designs often sought to harmonize classical motifs with regional symbolism, and in Canada's case, his work has remained remarkably consistent and iconic, used for decades without major alteration. The obverse portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, created by Arnold Machin, shows her crowned with the girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, facing right, following tradition. This image, adopted in 1965 and used until 1989, was designed to reflect both regality and approachability. It connects the coin to the broader Commonwealth realm, in which Canada maintains the monarch as a ceremonial head of state. The image of the Queen also serves as a reminder of Canada's constitutional stability and inherited parliamentary traditions. Yet in the context of a Canadian penny used by ordinary citizens in everyday life, it reflects the coexistence of monarchy and democracy. Formality and common utility. The 1981 Canadian 1-cent coin is minted primarily from copper, with a composition of 98% copper, 0.5% tin, and 1.5% zinc. This makes it among the last pennies to have a high intrinsic copper value before the metal content was reduced in subsequent years. Over 1.2 billion of these coins were minted in 1981, making them common from a circulation standpoint, though coins in uncirculated condition or specific mint errors can attract interest among collectors. While the coin holds little numismatic value individually, it remains historically rich, especially considering that Canada discontinued the penny in 2012 due to rising production costs and inflation, making the 1-cent coin obsolete in commerce. Additionally, the concept of epoblique of variation of republic, meaning republic, though not officially part of Canada's governmental identity, evokes a philosophical tension and dialogue between monarchical and republican values that have shaped the Western political tradition. Canada, unlike France or the US, retained its monarchy but also embraced republican ideals of democracy, representation, and civic rights. These layered identities are subtly captured in the symbology of the coin itself, a monarch on one side, and the people's tree on the other. The Queen, crowned and eternal, is counterbalanced by the maple leaf, seasonal, rooted in the land, and ever regenerating. It's this duality that makes the Canadian penny more than just change. It's a copper canvas of Canada's hybrid soul. Lastly, this coin's presence today, often found in old jars, drawers, and forgotten corners, serves as a tactile reminder of Canada's evolving relationship with money, identity, and heritage. From children learning to count to elders remembering wartime economies, the 1-cent coin has touched nearly every Canadian hand over generations. It links a monarch to the people, a country to its forests, and a coin to the philosophies of liberty, equality, and fraternity that have guided Western democracies. Though no longer in circulation, the 1981 Canadian penny endures as a cultural and historical artifact, embodying the spirit of a nation in transition from colonial roots to sovereign multiculturalism, from copper coinage to digital economies, and from imperial symbolism to inclusive civic ideals. The next up, top 3, the 2000 Canadian 1-cent coin featuring the phrase Liberty, Eagle-ite, Fraternity is a fascinating object of symbolic, historical, and cultural study. Although this French motto does not officially appear on Canadian coins, its mention reflects a broader symbolic interpretation that ties the coin to ideals of freedom, equality, and brotherhood, reminiscent of the French Revolution. The coin in question shows Queen Elizabeth II with the inscription Elizabeth II, DG Regina, which is short for Dei Gratia Regina, meaning by the grace of God, Queen. The reverse design shows the iconic maple leaf twig, a national symbol of Canada representing strength, endurance, and unity. The initials KG refer to George Kruger Gray, the British artist who designed the maple leaf reverse in 1937. This design was used consistently on Canadian pennies until the last penny was minted in 2012. The 1-cent coin of 2000 carries a great deal of symbolism. The year 2000 marked the turn of the millennium, a moment of reflection for global societies and a celebration of progress. In Canada, it was a year of transition, as the country deepened its commitment to bilingualism, multiculturalism, and constitutional democracy. While Liberté, Eagle-ite, Fraternity is not an official Canadian motto, its spirit resonates with the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. In this sense, invoking this phrase in relation to the coin aligns the object with Canada's dedication to civil liberties, fair governance, and social solidarity. Queen Elizabeth II, portrayed on the obverse, reigned as the constitutional monarch of Canada at the time. Her presence on the coin not only symbolized the connection to the Commonwealth, but also the stable constitutional monarchy underpinning Canadian parliamentary democracy. The regal image of the Queen reflects Canada's colonial heritage, but also its evolution into a sovereign and multicultural nation that retains the monarchy in a ceremonial capacity. The crown she wears signifies continuity and respect for legal tradition, while the stylized lettering and dignified profile serve to reinforce a sense of national order and legitimacy. The reverse side of the coin features two maple leaves on a single twig, a classic and enduring emblem of Canadian identity. The maple leaf has long symbolized Canada's natural beauty, diversity, and unity. From its use in the military to the national flag, it conveys a sense of pride and resilience. George Kruger Gray's design was praised for its simplicity and recognizability. The initials KG serve as a tribute to the designer's artistic contribution to Canadian coinage and his place in numismatic history. The use of copper-plated zinc as the coin was no longer bronze by 2000 marks a shift in Canadian minting technology, reflecting the economic considerations of the time and the evolving metallurgy of modern coinage. Culturally, the 2000 penny represents the everyday economic life of Canadian citizens. Though small in denomination, it once played a vital role in commerce, education as children learned arithmetic with pennies, and charitable giving as in the iconic penny drive campaigns. The decision to phase out the penny after 2012 due to production costs and decreasing use marked the end of an era. Yet, pennies from earlier years like 2000 remain significant to collectors, historians, and the general public as symbols of continuity, change, and national memory. From a symbolic standpoint, linking this coin to the motto liberty, equality, fraternity allows for a deeper appreciation of its place within a democratic and pluralistic society. Liberty corresponds to the political freedoms Canadians enjoy. Equality is enshrined in laws that protect citizens regardless of gender, race, or creed. Fraternity is seen in the social programs and cultural policies that aim to foster unity and compassion. Though these ideals originated in France, their presence in Canadian society through constitutional law, multicultural inclusion, and civic identity makes this penny a poetic metaphor for Canada's values. The word republique, a blend of republic and publica, is possibly a stylized or artistic representation reflecting ideals of public trust, shared governance, and civic responsibility. While not an official term in Canada, its philosophical essence aligns with the principles embodied in Canadian democracy. The imaginative attribution to Lagerfeuille, possibly an artist or interpretative alias, adds a layer of symbolic mystique and modern reinterpretation. It implies that even familiar objects like coins can be re-examined through a lens of liberty, human rights, and artistic reflection. In conclusion, the 1 cent to 1,000 Canadian coin, when viewed through the lens of liberty, equality, fraternity, becomes more than just a monetary object. It becomes a miniature canvas of values, history, and national character. It reminds us of Canada's roots in colonial monarchy, its evolution into a bilingual and multicultural society, and its unwavering commitment to civil liberties. While no longer in circulation, this coin continues to tell stories of people, ideals, and the silent strength of symbolic design. It is a reminder that even the smallest coin can reflect the largest truths of a nation's soul. The next up top for the 2006 Canadian 1 cent coin bearing the inscriptions Liberty, Eaglite, Fraternity, a French Revolutionary motto, Elizabeth II D.G. Regina, and Canada 1 cent kilograms 2006 represents more than just currency. It is a miniature monument reflecting Canadian history, numismatic artistry, and a deep-rooted connection between monarchy, modernity, and multicultural identity. Though the phrase Liberty, Eaglite, Fraternity is French in origin and not officially inscribed on Canadian coins, it sometimes appears in artistic, commemorative, or metaphorical interpretations, especially when discussing the coin in international or symbolic contexts. The coin's obverse, designed by Susanna Blunt, features a right-facing, crowned portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, without the royal tiara or diadem, symbolizing a more modest, modern monarch. The Latin inscription DG Regina stands for Dei Gratia Regina, meaning by the grace of God, Queen, reaffirming Canada's status as a constitutional monarchy and a member of the Commonwealth realm. The reverse, designed by George Kruger Gray KG, portrays the iconic maple leaf twig, symbolizing Canadian heritage, unity, and natural pride. It has been a central feature since 1937. The year 2006 marks a period of transition in coin production as the Royal Canadian Mint began shifting from bronze-plated zinc to steel-based coins, affecting weight, magnetism, and environmental sustainability. The coin is composed of 94% steel, 1.5% nickel, and 4.5% copper plating, making it magnetic. And it weighs 2.35 grams with a diameter of 19.05 millimeters. In this year, both Vancouver 2010 Olympics commemorative coins and standard coinage were produced, showing Canada's dual emphasis on celebration and tradition. The coin holds both economic and symbolic value. Though it had minimal purchasing power, it played a critical role in pricing systems, psychological pricing .99 endings, and cash transactions. However, pennies were phased out in 2012 due to production costs exceeding their face value, highlighting issues of monetary efficiency in the 21st century. The reference to Épublique Lagerfeuille seems to creatively blend Republican ideals and artistic attributions possibly imagined or symbolic, contrasting with Canada's real-world constitutional monarchy and its loyalty to the British Crown. While Lagerfeuille may not be directly associated with Canadian coins, the inclusion of such a name may reflect a metaphorical or artistic narrative. Overall, the 2006 1-cent Canadian coin is an artifact of cultural continuity, royal legacy, fiscal evolution, and environmental foresight, bridging past and present in a coin that no longer circulates but continues to inspire collectors, historians, and those who read between the lines of metal and monarchy.